200 years. That's how long the signal drifted. Thin, cracked, barely more than static. A human distress call from a ship that should have been dust, forgotten by time. But when we answered it, we didn't find ghosts. We found something that had been waiting. And the voices calling to us weren't human anymore. Before we dive into the story, take a moment. Hit like if you love these dark tales of survival and subscribe so you never miss what comes next. Let's follow the sound into the dark. The ship was called Eidolon, a colony vessel launched during the first expansion when humanity was still bold enough to scatter its seeds into the void. Thousands of souls on board, frozen in stasis, bound for a habitable star. But Eidolon never arrived. Records said she vanished at the edge of uncharted space. No wreckage, no beacon, just silence. Until now. We picked up the transmission near the Perseus Rift, faint as a whisper. Standard human distress code, 3 tones, rising and falling. But the pattern was wrong. It didn't loop the way it should. Each cycle was off. Slowed, stretched, like a voice remembering itself through broken teeth. Our ship, the Artemis Reach, was a scavenger craft. We weren't heroes, we weren't soldiers. We were survivors chasing scrap in a dying economy. A derelict colony ship meant fortune. So we followed the signal. The Eidolon was waiting at the edge of a dead star system, a black hulk drifting against the pale light of a collapsed sun. The hull was scarred but intact. A miracle. No breaches wide enough to explain 2 centuries of silence. And yet, no running lights. No heat signatures. We docked. We were 6. I was navigator, but on derelict runs everyone was also muscle. We wore pressure suits, lights cutting narrow tunnels through the dark. Inside, the ship breathed. That was the first wrong thing. No power, no gravity, but the air still stirred, like lungs pulling shallow, invisible gasps. The corridors were covered in a fine gray film, dust that clung to our visors like ash. Every step stirred it, and beneath our boots the deck creaked as though it resented our weight. We reached the bridge. Systems were dead, panels gutted, but in the center of the room, the comms array still flickered faintly, humming with that distorted distress call. No power, no core reactor, and yet it pulsed. A faint light blinking in rhythm with a heartbeat not our own. "Ship's alive," our engineer muttered. "She's eating something. Don't know what, but it's keeping her fed." We should have left. But greed roots deep. We split, 2 toward the stasis bays, 2 toward engineering, myself and Mara, the captain, toward the comms heart. The corridors bent strangely. The longer we walked, the more it felt like the ship was rearranging itself. Bulkheads where there should have been open space, airlocks leading into walls, and the whispers. At first I thought it was static bleed in my headset, a faint chorus beneath the hum. But Mara stopped, visor turning. "You hear it?" "Yes," I said. "It's saying our names." The stasis bay was worse. The pods were still intact, thousands of them, row on row. But none of the faces inside were human anymore. The flesh had stretched, reshaped, grown long and thin, as though gravity itself had been rewritten inside those glass coffins. Some eyes were still open, milky with centuries of distortion, and their mouths twitched in slow motion as though mouthing words we couldn't hear. The 2 who went there didn't last long. Their comms went sharp with panic, then static. When we found their feeds again, their helmets were pressed to the pods, hands gripping the glass. And though we shouted, though we begged, they didn't move. One by one, they opened their helmets, and the gray ash filled them. We sealed the bay, locked it behind bulkheads, but their voices stayed with us. In engineering, the others reported the core was gone, not offline. Gone. A hole where it had once been, lined with the same gray film that coated everything. It pulsed faintly like veins, and from it came the hum. The ship wasn't dead. It had eaten its own heart. On the bridge, Mara ordered retreat. But the docking path had changed. Corridors looped back on themselves. Airlocks opened into cargo bays that shouldn't have been there. The map of the ship was wrong now. It was like walking through memory instead of steel. And the voices grew clearer. They weren't distress calls anymore. They were stories, laughing, crying, fragments of lives from 200 years past. A child asking her mother for a toy, a captain giving orders, lovers whispering in the dark, all of it layered, repeated, stitched together. And between them, something new. Stay. Don't leave us again. Mara cracked first. She pulled her helmet off in the bridge, gasping. Her eyes went wide and she smiled like a woman seeing heaven. Her mouth moved, but the words weren't hers. "It remembers us," she whispered. "It needs us." I tried to drag her back to the airlock, but the ship didn't want us to leave. The corridor stretched and the bulkheads closed. The ash rose like fog, clinging to her face, pouring into her open mouth. She didn't fight. She kissed the air like it was feeding her. I ran. The Artemis Reach was gone. Where our ship had docked was only more eidolon, stretched and folded like the hull had swallowed it whole. I wandered for hours, days maybe. Time bent inside that carcass. Voices sang lullabies. My own mother's voice, my own laughter from childhood, my dead sister's sobs. The ship remembered me too. I nearly gave in, nearly took off the helmet. But then, I heard something beneath all the voices. A signal, real this time, a sharp beacon cutting through the noise, a salvage tag from the Artemis Reach. Somehow, impossibly, still broadcasting. I followed it. At the end of the corridor was a hatch that hadn't been there before. Inside, the wreckage of our ship, gutted, twisted, half-fused into eidolon. But the beacon still blinked. A single light in the dark. I triggered it manually, over and over until my hands bled inside the suit, sending coordinates, sending warning, not for rescue. Rescue wasn't coming, but so someone else would know. And as I sat there, the voices closed in again. Mara's voice, my crew's voices, my own voice, speaking words I hadn't yet said. Stay. The last thing I saw before the ash crawled across my visor was the beacon light, blinking, steady, a heartbeat. It still blinks now. If you're hearing this story, if you're watching this broadcast, then you've caught it. The hollow signal. Don't follow it. Please, don't follow it. If this story sent a chill down your spine, hit like and subscribe for more. And drop your city in the comments. I want to see where this signal reached across the world. Because if the voices are already whispering to you, it may be too late.